Cabinet in August 2011, the department has conducted numerous consultative workshops with a range of stakeholders. The stakeholders consulted include organized agriculture, emerging and commercial farmers, academics, non-governmental organizations, agribusiness, donors, and other interested parties. The discussions have focused on all the policy proposals contained in the Green Paper. From these larger consultative processes, a national reference group was established consisting of representatives from the earlier mentioned groups, 6 work streams aligned to thematic areas of the Green Paper and land reform have also been established and are operational. The streams include representatives from the South African Local Government Association, the South African Council of Property Valuers, and other government departments. The stakeholders are discussing the proposals in the Green Paper to find the best ways of reversing the legacy of the 1913 Natives Land Act. The primary objective is to change the systems, patterns, ownership, and control of land and landed assets. Our ultimate objective is to de-racialize the rural economy for shared and sustained growth and create democratic and equitable land allocation and use across gender, race, and class. We also want to promote a strict production discipline in order to ensure national food security. That is why we promote the return to the land so that communities, especially in rural areas, can be able to plow and sustain themselves. Sifuna abantu ezindaweni zasemakhaya babuyele emasimini balime ukuze baziphilise. Yingakho ukubuya komhlaba kuleli lifuneka. The green out of graduating black farmers into successful commercial farmers through the recapitalization and development program. It also calls for the creation of institutions such as the Land Management Commission and the Office of the Valuer General, which would become the arbiters of the principles of just and equitable land reform. As you are aware, the National Development Plan also makes proposals for land reform which include the concept of district committees. It is proposed that these committees will identify and select people to be resettled. They would also identify people who demonstrate suitability, passion, and commitment to the rural development despite the limited space and resources. The centenary of the Land Act next year will provide an opportunity to galvanize the whole country towards meaningful land reform and redistribution in a manner that promotes redress and reconciliation. The consultations amongst stakeholders, the consultations amongst stakeholders and the affected people will continue until the policy processes are finalized. Land remains a central issue in the restoration of the rights and dignity of those who were dispossessed. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Is there a supplementary question, Honorable Kacheni? You have the floor, sir.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo. Ngibonge mhlonishwa umongameli ngempendulo osusinika yona. Okokuqala nje mhlonishwa umongameli lelizwe lafelwa ubabamkhulu noyihlo omkhulu ngoba elivikela umhlabathi. Uma umongameli ekhuluma ukuthi kune green paper thina abantu basemakhaya asazi ukuthi usho ukuthini. Okwesibili umethi khona ama forum okuhlala kuona thina lapha la siqhamuka khona abantu abazimbuleyo indawo zabo zokuhlala babhedlizelwe nemizi yabo balale egangeni. Abanye abantu bamehambima ngoba ingekho indawo bangahlala kuyona. Umongameli akakuboni kufanele lokhu ukuthi eminyakeni eminingi kangaka kusukela ku-1994 kuze kufika manje ukuthi kufanele ukuthi kuxoxiswane ngendaba yomhlabathi ngoba kwachitheka igazi ngomhlabathi.
The Honorable, the President.
Ngiyabonga Somlomo nelungu ehloniphekile lendlu yesishamthetho. Uma kuthiwa iphepha elihlaza ngesizulu okuthiwa phecelezi ngesilungu igreen paper kusho ukuthi iphepha lokuqala elidlalela indaba ukuthi xoxe kusho lokho. Makuthiwa nje green paper phepha elihlaza wazi ukuthi kusho ukuthi iphepha lokuqala ngqa elizothula inkulumo esizweni. Ayalandela amanye nawo nembala yawo. Ifundiso ezasho njalo kumina Gatsheni. Leli phepha ke limenyezelwe kabanzi ezweni. Uma izakhamuzi angakubo kamhlonishwa zingakayizwa indaba, hayi ngizokhuluma noNgqongqoshe ukuthi alethe nangasekhaya ngoba liletha khona ukuthi kusunguleke izingxoxo ukuthi sizoyisombulula kanjani lenkinga, hayi ukuthi yaqala kade ixoxwa le ndaba kwaze kwathathwa inqumo kwaze kwenziwa ngisho uhlelo lokuthi umhlaba uzothengwa kanjani uzobuyiswa kanjani. Sikubeke kwacaca ukuthi lezo nhlelo sibona ukuthi azikwazanga ukufikelela engqikithini yendaba. Yingakho nje sesithi asibuyele futhi engxoxweni njengesizwe siluxoxe lolu daba ngoba sazi khona lokho okushoyo ukuthi ngomhlaba kwachitheka igazi. Asifunike liphinde lichitheke. Sifuna ukusebenzisa umthetho sisekelo ukuyisombulula lenkinga. Ngiyabonga Somlomo.
I thank the Honorable President. I have on my screen the following names of people wishing to ask supplementary questions. Honorable van der Linde, followed by Honorable W. Madisha, and followed by Honorable Sizani in that order. You have the floor, sir.
Mr. President, your response to this question deals with peripheral issues, not to meaningful tenure reform for Africans. My question in this regard is, what will you and the Minister of Rural Development and Land Reform do to address the issue dealing with the fact that 27 million South African citizens living on communal land in former homelands do so with no formal security of tenure? Will you hold discussions with traditional leaders to ensure practical feudal land tenure reform? which the NDP refers to as the single biggest threat to compressive rural development in South Africa, and especially in the former homelands. I thank you.
Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. I don't think in my answer I'm dealing with the peripheral issues. I'm dealing with the real issues. And we are saying there is a green paper that is out there for a discussion. If the Honorable Member has views, that paper gives him the opportunity to engage and deal with this very serious issue of the land hunger in this country. He's absolutely welcomed to engage. I don't think he's expecting that as we say, let us discuss this, we must impose solutions or what we think. And there is no one who is not going to participate. The traditional leaders are invited to participate. Political parties are also, so that we can hear what their thinking is about the land issue, because we haven't heard, as well as civil society. So the matter is being reopened for debate precisely to address the very picture that he has painted of the land question in this country. So we are inviting everyone to participate. You are, Honorable Member, invited as well to be part of the debate. Thank you.
Honorable Madisha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ask report about that. Through you, Mr. Speaker, besides the positive developments in Nkandla, we believe that there are momentous challenges throughout the country. If I were to give you an example in Limpopo, rural areas of Nandoni, Muyeshe, Mupani, through you gave the presidential program on rural development, where you promised to address a number of problems. I mean, apart from the agricultural problems, the land reform there, you spoke of the water pipes, boreholes, electricity, the toilets, etc. Something which has not been done to date after a very, very long time. We will want to know, when are you going to handle that? Or have you at all been able to go and hold a meeting with the people there, or even the minister relevant? When are you going to handle these particular problems, agricultural problems, as I cited, in that particular area?
The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Well, the Honorable Member, I'm sure, is aware. We have been to Limpopo many times, and we have met the people in Limpopo, discussed the issues. Some of the areas he's mentioning, the Minister of Rural Development has been there. I have been there at some given time. There is one thing that you cannot do. You can't be, unless you are a magician, to solve the problems of this country overnight. There are programs of rural development that have been rolled out, that are being implemented, and I don't think the minister can be in every corner of this country at the same time. It's impossible, unless you are a magician. So those matters are being taken care of, and those areas are being taken care of. This is in addition to the normal programs of the province and municipalities. The rural development is an additional kind of program that come in to make the intervention. So we do have in mind those areas, and some things happen, particularly at Muyeshe, which you mentioned. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Sizani, you have the floor.
Tabulela Mongameli. Kukho abantu abamongameli abafika kule ndlu bazorepresenta abantu bangayiyo nokuya kubo. Inkosi zelizwe lethu ziyathatha inxaxheba kule ngxoxo yomhlaba. I-National House ne-Provincial Houses ziyayenza loo nto. Umhlakazi uyayazi laa nto, ubuza nje ukuba kukho abantu abaninzi abahleli phaa. Kodwa ke mna mhlakazi ndifuna uqonda ukuba le comprehensive land reform strategy iapruvwe yicabinet. Ithini ngaba bantu bavela ngaphandle abangazimiselanga ulima, abangazimiselanga ukuba babe ngabahlali basa South Africa, bafika bathenga umhlaba bawugcine nje bengawusebenzisi. Incedisa njani loo nto ekongezeni ukutya elizweni lethu mhlekazi?
The Honorable the President.
Ndiyabulela somlomo. Hayi eliphepha sithetha ngalo liyayichaphazela loo ndawo. Yaye asizi kuyeka tu indlela lomhlaba wakowethu ozophathwa ngayo ukuthi abantu abaqhamuka ngaphandle abafike bathenga umhlaba ube ngowabo. Ngabe kulungile lokho na? Iyayichaphazela loo nto kakhulu. Sizayilungisa xa seyiqosheliswa indaba le esithetha ngayo. Isisombululo sizobakho ukuthi sizobenza ntona. Abasoze bayeke bathi benemhlaba le makubo baphinde babe nemhlaba apha sibe singena umhlaba thina. Tokunayo sifuna ukuyenza lonto ngaphansi kwempembelelo zomthetho sisekelo kanye nomthetho.
There's no translation.
Hold on, Honourable Member.
Sorry, Mr. President, would love to hear what he's saying, but there isn't a translation.
Can someone check why there's no translation? Is there translation? Order, Honourable Members, order. Honourable Members, order. Honourable Deputy Ministers, order. Is there a translation there? You will have to speak in all the official languages, Mr. President, one after the other. Okay, we now have translation. Continue, Honourable President.
Oh,
we now move on, order, Honourable Members. We now move on to question number 21, order, Honourable Members, which has been asked by Honourable L.W. Grayling, the Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Honourable Member, our task as government is to lay the foundation for the long-term growth and job creation in a complex global environment where developments in other economies impact directly on local economic performance. Over the past few months, we have been faced by twin challenges of slow growth caused by a slowdown in the global economy, as well as unprocedural strikes in parts of the mining industry. Despite these difficulties, we remain focused on implementing our economic programs aimed at achieving prosperity and a better life for all. We are building a thriving mixed economy where the state, private capital, cooperative, and other forms of social ownership complement each other in an integrated way to eliminate poverty and foster shared economic growth. The State of the Nation address this year outlined that the central and most pressing challenges we face are unemployment, poverty, and inequality. In responding to the three, we must simultaneously accelerate economic growth, which will assist us to create jobs and promote dignity and social stability. Ministers regularly share with this House various aspects of the implementation of our economic programs. To be able to achieve the prosperous society we seek, we need to, in summary, do the following: enhance growth and job creation, narrow inequality and the income gaps, especially between poor and upper income groups, while expanding the ownership, control, and management of the economy. Continue improving the living conditions of poor communities. Implement our economic and social policies more effectively. Continue improving our education system and skills development. Help small and medium-sized businesses to grow, employ, and export. To sharpen the delivery of our infrastructure program in all throughout the country, and to continue and deepen our fight against crime and corruption. Economic transformation remains central to these programs in order to address the legacy of the past and promote reconciliation and growth. This includes promoting the ownership, control, and management of the economy by Black people, women, the youth, and persons with disabilities, to respond in particular to the global economic slowdown and its impact locally. On the 17th of October, I hosted a dialogue of NEDLEC social partners to consider the current economic challenges we faced. The program of action arising from that session builds on the coherent, broader vision set out in the National Development Plan and the complementary economic strategy contained in the new growth path. In addition, on October 25th, the Minister of Finance tabled the medium-term budget policy statement, which set out government's fiscal and economic policy for the next 3 years. In the long term, what we want the world to understand is that our biggest strength is the sound institutional framework of the country, built on the foundation of the Constitution. This framework has enabled resilience and makes South Africa capable of mediating the contradictions that sometimes become apparent in our young democracy. We have held 4 national general elections which have given practical expression to the country's commitment to democracy. We have a fully functional governance system with cooperation amongst the executive, the judiciary, and the legislature. We have effective checks and balances, which includes Chapter 9 institutions. All these ingredients provide a sound and stable environment on which we are implementing our socio-economic programs. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank the Honorable President. Is there a follow-up question, supplementary question? Honorable Khreli.
Yes, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable President, reading through the different reasons the credit agencies gave for their downgrade offers us an ominous warning of the many challenges that we will have to confront as a nation if we wish to restore investor confidence and signal that South Africa is a stable economy to do business. One of the problems that were identified is that the government is giving mixed messages and failing to provide a clear policy direction. And on that point, Honorable President, the Honorable Minister of Agriculture told protesting farm workers this week that no farm worker would face criminal charges for taking part in the violent strike and protest action, and that she would speak to the MPA to ensure that all cases of intimidation and public violence are withdrawn. Honourable President, this is arguing directly against the rule of law in South Africa, and surely it cannot be the policy of this government. If it isn't, will you then be taking harsh action against this minister and distancing the government from her destructive utterances, which are inciting people to take part in violent wildcat strikes and signalling to the world that we do not respect the rule of law? I thank you.
The Honourable President.
Well, thank you very much, Honourable Speaker. Firstly, on the question of the downgrade of the country, there is a global economic meltdown which has led to many countries being downgraded by these institutions, including the United States, Greece, Spain, many other countries. It has not said it is because these countries are saying different things. They are examining many things in each country in terms of where the economy is. Here, in this country, one of the reasons we met with the social partners was precisely to say, as a leadership of this country, all of us, we need to speak in one voice. We need to speak in one voice, and we are speaking in one voice. There's no doubt about it, including the social partners. Ministers from time to time intervene in situations to address the situations. I haven't heard contradictions. Perhaps I must have missed the news. What I've heard from the Minister of Agriculture has been there trying to mediate, to try to calm down, to try to solve the situation.
Order.
That's what I've heard. I didn't hear the minister saying anything that you are quoting. I didn't hear that. All what I know and what is the report that has been given to me is that the minister has been intervening in an attempt to solve the problem of the farm workers. That's what I've heard. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
I have on my list the following speakers: Honourable Killian, Honourable Mazibuko, and Honourable Ambrosini, in that order.
Thank you, Speaker. Honourable President. President, as indicated by the previous speaker, the perceptions of a country have a major impact on the grading of a country. And clearly you've mentioned Greece and everywhere, but in South Africa it was specifically mentioned that political instability is a cause of concern in this country. Now, what we have seen at Marikana and what we are seeing in the Western Cape is clearly not good footage on television that is being broadcast across the world. But what is of a graver concern is that messages are currently also running in the media about contestation within the governing alliance that has reached the point where a member of parliament marched into an ANC branch meeting, intimidating those present to support you.
Order, no members. Order.
Would you not make a public statement condemning all such actions so that you can make sure that within your party and within the country a climate of political tolerance is created so that the world no longer has these concerns about our country.
Order, honourable members, order.
Would you make such a public
Your
statement?
time has
Thank
expired,
you.
honourable member. Honourable the President.
Well, Honorable Speaker, firstly, what comes first in the grading is the state of the economy of the country. Then they look at various things. You quoted Marikana. Marikana emerged as a strike. It's not a political instability. The workers went on strike, which was a strike outside the framework of how the labor and capital function in this country. As soon as that happened, as I said earlier, the leadership in this country moved into that situation. I think that is an important element which indicates the strength of this country in terms of dealing with its own problems. The Western Cape strike, as soon as it happened, the leadership moved in to deal with the situation. Where does it arise from? It arises from the poor salaries that those people are getting. It's not a political issue. It's not caused by the political situation. It's caused by the conditions of the farm workers. Now, these are the two things you indicated. Then you come to the ANC. Unfortunately, you don't understand the democracy of the ANC. That's a problem many of you have. Democracy means there is a contestation in the party. And the ANC can claim to be number one in the contestation in exercising democracy. The members of the ANC have a right to make preferences and choices. And that's what happens. That cannot be a minus, it's a plus to a democracy in this country. So can't count that as a factor that influence the grading or degrading of the country. It can't be. Is in fact a plus that democracy works in this country. In this country, anyone can stand up and make any statement. In Parliament here, people can talk until they sweat, making a wrong point. This is democracy. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Order, honourable members, order. Can I again please appeal to members of the public gallery not to participate in the proceedings, either by approving or disapproving, and that includes clapping. Please allow your elected representatives to participate in the proceedings on your behalf. Honourable Mazibuko, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, the ratings agency Moody's attributed their downgrading of South Africa's credit rating to, and I quote, the challenges posed by negative investment climate in light of, amongst others, increased concerns about South Africa's future political stability. This, Mr. Speaker, is an indictment of the President and his government's ability to lead this country. The Honourable President has tried here today to pass the buck on leading this country. He's tried to claim that it's the responsibility of members in the opposition benches to run South Africa. Yet he is the head of state. This is President's questions. It's not questions to the opposition. And we elected you, Honourable President, to lead this country.
Honourable members, order.
We elected you in this House to run this country as its leader. So let's talk about leadership. Parliament is here to hold the Honourable President accountable for leading this country. There are all indications that he is not doing the job adequately. So my question to him is, will he explain to this House that elected him, why he thinks, in the face of increasing economic instability under his leadership, why he deserves to continue his term of office as President of the Republic of South Africa?
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order, honourable members, order.
This country is stable. This country is stable. This country is stable. Once again, if you know democracies, you go to all the democracies in this world, there are strikes continuously. It does not spell the fact that there is instability. You go to Paris, you go to London, you go to everywhere. There are strikes, they are a feature of democracy. They are not instability. In countries where there is no democracy, if people protest or they go on strike, they are dealt with. In democracies, they continue as long as they do it within the framework of the law. And that's what is happening in South Africa. What the honorable member is saying is the view of the opposition. And they've got a right to have their own views. Nobody could compete with you. I don't think you would have an opposition agreeing with the ruling party. It's a nature of democracy. This country is stable. Absolutely. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you. Order. Honorable Ambrosini, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order, honorable members, order.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, you are right. You're absolutely right, and you have my absolute support on the statement that the importance of democracy is vital to the country, and it is indeed vital to a credit rating. You and I and everyone else in this House knows and would agree to the fact that if a country does not hold regular elections and refuse to hold an election, will get immediately downgraded, because the holding of regular election and avoiding to lose power by preventing an election, it is a case of losing investors' confidence. My question to you, Mr. President, what is the difference between preventing the holding of election and preventing a vote of no confidence, which is a constitutional power of the opposition, of each member of this House, which the Constitutional Court has required this National Assembly not to impair and, in fact, to assist? How will that affect the credit rating?
Order. There's a point of order.
The point of order is the member is not responding to the question that has been asked to the President. Thank you.
Order, honourable members.
I thought I had to ask questions.
I conclude, honourable member.
When I'm president, I will gladly respond to questions put to me. But in the meantime, the burden of answering the questions is on President Zuma. And the question is, how can you authorize your party, your caucus, to prevent this side of the House to hold a vote of no confidence, which will have an enormous impact on the credit rating of the country? And how is that different from not holding an election?
Order, honourable members, order. The Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, the member definitely knows that I'm not a member of Parliament. I did not participate in the processes of this Parliament. I have heard that there was an issue raised, and members of this House are dealing with the issue as they would want it to deal with it. And as I've told, there are manner in which these matters are raised, there are procedures, there are everything. And I don't want to enter into the details of the matter that I'm not involved in. I don't think, Honourable Speaker, the man is expecting me to answer the question which he must get from other members of this Parliament. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Order. Question number 22 has been asked by the Honourable H.P. Mululega, who is unfortunately absent due to illness. The follow-up question. Are you back from hospital?
No, Suka is taking the place of Mr. Maluleka.
Are you Mr. Maluleka? Shall I
am replacing him, Mr. Speaker.
Let me start from scratch. Ms. Maluleka is absent due to illness. The follow-up question will be asked by Honorable L. Sugar. The Honorable the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Member, the actual change in the quality of life of our people means that we provide more people with running water, electricity, and gas, better roads and telecommunications, improved clinics and schools, parks and city buildings. These investments will give our people a better life and enable them to engage better, both as workers and as citizens. They are meant to correct the historic underinvestment and discrimination against black communities, which to this day underpin poverty and inequality in our country. You'll recall that at the time of the transition to democracy, less than half of African households had piped water on site or electricity. Similar disparities existed for investment in roads, telecommunications, schools, clinics, parks, and other services. We have already spent billions to overcome underinvestment in our communities, and work is ongoing. The census 2011 results indicated that amongst other achievements, access to basic services such as piped water, electricity, and refuse removal have more than doubled over the period 1996 to 2011. However, many more communities are still waiting for water, electricity, sanitation, and other services. Hence, the importance of the prioritizing infrastructure development. To make a meaningful impact amongst the poorest areas, the National Infrastructure Plan has identified 23 districts, municipalities, where poverty runs deep, which are mostly in the former so-called homelands. Providing services is harder in these regions for a number of reasons. The households are often relatively scattered, increasing the cost of network infrastructure like roads and water. Unemployment is also still highest in these regions, which were set up under apartheid deliberately to lack land and other productive resources. Our infrastructure investment will definitely change the lives for the better. Honorable Member, the National Infrastructure Plan will reinforce industrialization in two main ways. Firstly, it will provide a market for capital goods and construction materials. We expect a substantial boost, amongst others, to producers of bitumen, cement, structural steel products, generators, and electrical equipment of all kinds, as well as rolling stock for Transnet and PRASA. Secondly, infrastructure will improve the overall competitiveness of our economy and open new economic opportunities for both established and emerging enterprises. Key projects in this regard include the investments to open up the northern mining belt and improvements in rail and road transport between KwaZulu-Natal and Gauteng. They also include projects that will open new economic opportunities for people in impoverished rural areas, including the development corridors around the Eastern Cape and the Northwest. Significantly, we also won the right to share the hosting of the square kilometer array, which brings a host of development opportunities for the country. In addition, the Minister of Energy has also announced concessions on renewable energy. All these will add enormously to our infrastructure development success. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank the Honorable President. Is there a follow-up question, Honorable Suka?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Critical to sustaining the infrastructure development program is the ability to maintain the high levels of public investment by government, public sector agencies backed by investment skills development. Now, the question is the President and Cabinet taking the necessary measures to ensure that our fiscus is able to sustain the level of investment required, and what steps have been taken in this regard in order to avoid what has happened in other countries with similar programs? For instance, Portugal. I thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Yes, the government is taking all the necessary steps to ensure that our programs succeed. We spend a lot of time discussing whether our plans will indeed have the resources to implement. And certainly we've put figures, and these figures have been announced publicly as to what is the amount we have to implement our programs. So that has been taken care of. There's no doubt about it. What we have as plans is going to be implemented, is going to be funded. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
The following names appear on my screen. Honorable Singh, Honorable L. Ramatlakane, and Honorable W.G. James, in that order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. President. Mr. President, there is no doubt that in general terms, infrastructure development is a catalyst to sustainable economic development. But when we look at some of the kinds of infrastructure development that have taken place in the past 2 years, like the World Cup stadia that we built, that are standing as, many of them standing as white elephants, I think we need to question the desirability of that kind of investment in South Africa. But having said that, Mr. President, I think we are on a ticking time bomb at the moment with the number of youth that are unemployed in our country. Youth that have tertiary qualifications, some of them do not have those qualifications. Has the President and the infrastructure group taken advantage of the fact that in any future investment in infrastructure, the youth will be favorably considered to be employed, so that in a few years from now we can say many of the youth are gainfully employed in our country? Thank you.
The Honorable President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Honorable Member, firstly, the question of the youth unemployment is a global problem. It's not a South African problem only, currently. All countries are trying their level best to address it. And unfortunately, it has come at a time when there is economic global meltdown, which adds to the challenge. With regard to government, we discuss the issues of how do we deal with the issue of the youth. In fact, there are programs that address the question of the youth. I'm leaving aside the discussion that is at NEDLEC, that we announced here, and there were others in a democratic country who held a different view. And we are discussing with them because we thought it was a program that was very important. And we are very hopeful that at the end, that discussion will be concluded and we'll be able to have a clear program. But different departments are, in fact, tackling the question of the youth employment. It may not be known because perhaps people have not talked on the specifics in their departments. And I'm sure at the time when the ministers have the time to discuss their budgets, we'll be able to indicate what they are doing in their own departments. There is a lot that is being done, but of course the challenge is huge. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Honorable Ramatlakane.
Thank you very much, Speaker. And Mr. President, following your response, massive infrastructure development is easy to announce, but more little difficult to finance and more impossible to execute if you do not have sufficient high skills such as engineering, planning, management, accounting, quantity surveyors. 11 billion was left unspent last year due to the very failure of the executing and as a result, lack of finalization of hospital and school program. Since this executing implementing capacity is lacking, and we know that South Africa is rated lowest or poorest in the world in maths and science, what are the active plans and practical plans that you have implemented in securing and acquiring the relevant skill to ensure that for the success of this infrastructure development?
The Honorable the President.
Well, thank you, Honorable Speaker. Leaving aside our long-term emphasis on education, which we believe is an important element in any government to address the challenges of a country, which is ongoing. But we have organized very recently, a few weeks ago, an investment summit wherein we called everyone, including the private sector, the unions, the civil society, as well as people who deal with education of engineers. Firstly, to allow those key players in the country to buy in to this program. And we have placed an amount of money from government point of view. This has been welcomed by all these sectors as in fact one of the first in the country where there is total agreement and they are prepared to put money where their mouths are in terms of ensuring that this program succeeds. Program that is supported by all key players in the country. And I don't think we'll ever go wrong. From the government point of view, there are very concrete programs that are being implemented to ensure that this program succeeds. So you should not have worries. With all those challenges, which we are aware of, but we are acting within that knowledge to ensure that it succeeds. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank the Honorable President. Honorable James, you have the floor, sir.
Mr. Speaker, Mr. President, gross fixed capital formation, which is a measure of infrastructure investment, fell from 30% of GDP in 1982 to 18% in 1994, where it stayed till now. We therefore welcome this government's planned expansion in infrastructure investment. As recent events indicate, there is a particular need to invest in rural logistical infrastructure to make our agricultural enterprises more competitive and therefore better able to produce jobs and higher incomes for workers. So why, Mr. President, instead of investing in rural areas everywhere, millions of rands are wasted on the indulgent and luxurious quarters fit for the emperor without clothes, which is you, sir, to sit in the pseudo-monarchic seat of Nkandla?
The Honorable the President.
Honorable Speaker, I thought that the next question deals with Nkandla, which is your last question. I don't know why the Speaker couldn't wait, the Honorable Member, so that he could come there to ask his question so that he will get the clarity. I don't want to preempt this important question from the leader of the opposition in Parliament.
Speaker, may I raise a point of order? Rule 63 states that members may not use offensive language. And I believe that the Honorable James, to refer to the President in the manner that he does, is actually insulting the President, and that is offensive language in terms of Rule 63. Could you please rule in that regard?
Indeed, I'll study the answer and come back on this issue, honourable members. We move on to question number 23, which has been asked by the Honourable C. Dudley. The President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Firstly, let me clarify that I am not the President of the African Union Programme for Infrastructure Development in Africa. The initiative is led by the African Union Commission with the African Development Bank as the implementing agency. Its purpose is to develop a vision and strategic framework for the development of regional and continental infrastructure. In January 2011, the heads of state of the African Union endorsed key priority projects and their respective champions as identified by the NEPAD high-level subcommittee on infrastructure. In this regard, Algeria is responsible for the missing link of the Trans-Sahara Highway project and the optical fiber project along the same alignment. The Republic of Congo for the Kinshasa-Brazzaville Road Rail Bridge project, Egypt for water management, river and rail transport infrastructure projects, Nigeria for the Nigeria-Algeria gas pipeline project, and Rwanda for the ICT broadband and linking the fiber optic network into the neighboring states. Senegal is responsible for the Dakar, N'Djamena, Djibouti rail and road project. South Africa has been given the task of managing the North-South Corridor rail and road project. The Presidential Infrastructure Championing Initiative, which I therefore lead, covers broadly the following sectors: transport, energy, information and communication technology, water and sanitation, as well as agriculture. As such, the question of maritime safety is not within my mandate. However, I'm aware that the African Union has a long-term focus on maritime security as part of its comprehensive 2050 Africa's Integrated Maritime Strategy. As a member of the AU, we have been actively engaged with this strategy, though the Minister for International Relations and Cooperation, as well as the Minister of Defense and Military Veterans, the 2050 AIM strategy remains in draft form, and the AU Commission has embarked on a consultation process with member states on the finalization of its content. For our part, the South African Navy and the South African Maritime Authority have played an active role in providing the initial input to the document. DERCO is consulting and coordinating with all relevant departments whose portfolios would be affected. Given that the AIM strategy remains a draft which has yet to undergo further consultation by the AU Commission, no implementation plans have been deemed necessary at this stage. We regard the strategy as a positive development that South Africa should support, given that it also talks to the protection and security of South Africa's own maritime domain. I thank you, Honorable Speaker.
I thank the Honorable President. Is there a follow-up question?
Yes,
Honorable Dudley, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you for accommodating my question, even though it's not in the context that I perhaps expected it should be. The African Union's deadline for securing the continent's coastal waters by 2050, of course, seems an incredibly long time off. I think I'll be about 97 then. I'm not sure about you. So, and knowing that piracy in African waters is rife is why I'm actually particularly grateful that you agreed to answer this question. And we know that while piracy remains lucrative, it's going to remain the problem that it is. So how much of a priority is this matter to you particularly and for South Africa, with piracy reported to have reached Namibia, Mauritius, Seychelles and Mozambique, and could be in South African waters anytime soon if it's not already? Now we have a vast and vulnerable coastline, and sea blindedness is said to be our biggest threat. What are we doing locally to address this threat? And are we able to ensure that a well-trained and equipped defence force regularly patrols South African and even Mozambique waters, for example? Thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Well, I've given, I think, the answer with regard to the AU level. But if I take the question with the latter part of Southern Africa, certainly the question of the piracy is a major problem that is facing our waters. SADC is planning, jointly coordinating the efforts to meet this situation and developing its capacity, military capacity. In fact, there's very direct coordination between ourselves, Mozambicans, Tanzanians, to address this issue. But there is a bigger picture of the entire SADC. The matter is under active consideration and planning. Thank you.
I have the following names on my list. Honorable Van Wyk, Honorable B. Banga, and Honorable E.H. Ilof, in that order.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, can I ask you whether you will please inform the House how or whether you will ensure that the final integrated maritime strategy will also contribute in supporting government strategies for economic and social development, and that the AIM strategy will not negatively impact upon trade in the waters of the SADC countries and countries bordering the Indian Ocean? I thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Definitely the efforts that I'm talking about take into account the economic activities that happen along our waters. In fact, there is a discussion within our country as to how do we utilize this resource, which is our waters, which we have not exploited sufficiently. That then goes with the question of, if that is the case, what are the plans for the security? And I'm sure in due course we'll be able to brief the country what we are trying to do, because it is an important area that we cannot leave unattended to, given the economic potential. And precisely because of the economic potential, the question of its security becomes important. And therefore that kind of debate is going to come, and perhaps even this House will benefit from that discussion. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable B. Banga.
Thank you, Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, as part of the Africa Integrated Marine Strategy, our understanding is that charity begins at home. Currently in our country, we are confronted with a challenge of a marine vessels Africana, which is supposed to collect scientific data which has not been sailing for quite some time. The state of Ellen Kuzwayo, our other vessel, which is also supposed to be patrolling our coastal waters, is not doing its work. South Africa today, to me, it looks as if it's a country without borders. Our marine waters are so vulnerable to poachers because your government, yourself, within the broader African strategy, you're doing nothing about making sure that the Africana is sailing and that the Helen Kuzwa is sailing. Mr. President, you remind me of the former spin doctor of Saddam Hussein, who says when a country is burning and say the country is stable, when the bomb are attacking the country, South Africa is burning today in the waters, South Africa is burning on the street.
Honourable Member, your time has expired. The Honourable the President.
Honourable Speaker, thank you very much. The member says there's fire in the sea. That's very serious. I haven't seen flames there. No, Honourable Speaker, it's an exaggeration. Our sea is active. Our ships are active. They are actually regularly shown on the TV, even training of young people. I'm sure the Honourable Member misses all of this. So it's not true that there's nothing happening. Charity has begun at home. Thank you very much, Honourable Speaker.
Honourable Elof.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. President, I would like to highlight something. Illegal, unregulated, and unreported fishing is estimated to cost the Sub-Sahara approximately $1 billion a year. As a result of dangers of sailing through the Gulf of Eden waterway, more and more ships are sailing through South Africa waters past the point of Africa route to Europe. This makes South Africa extremely susceptible to organized crime and exploitation of our environmental resources. How does the President plan to deal with these matters and these threats? Thank you.
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. That is just a point I made, that the matter is being discussed by SADC collectively, because it cannot be the challenge of one country only. We are discussing the matter, how do we capacitate our own countries to be able to deal with the threat that is coming, particularly the piracy, which has been threatening, particularly in the Indian Ocean, and I think it is beginning on the Atlantic Ocean, and that's what has made us to discuss the matter more urgently, that we need to take action. So the matter is being considered by the countries. We believe it is SADC that must form a collective system to be able to defend ourselves. So the matter is being attended to. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
I thank the Honourable the President. The last question has been asked by the Honourable the Leader of the Opposition, the Honourable the President.
Honourable Speaker, Honourable Member, let me make one thing quite clear from the onset. I've noted all sorts of public comments to the fact that government built my home in Nkandla. My residence in Nkandla has been paid for by the Zuma family. All the buildings and every room we use in that residence was built by ourselves as a family and not by government. I have never asked government to build a home for me, and it has not done so. The government has not built a home for me. A necessary distinction must therefore be made between work which I have mandated and initiated in my home as opposed to the security enhancement undertaken by government. On the basis of a security risk assessment undertaken by a team drawn from the departments of defense and military, veterans, police, and state security, I was approached to allow security upgrades or enhancement to be made to my Nkandla residence, which was in existence. I was advised that the security upgrades were indeed necessary in terms of the National Key Point Act number 102 of 1980. Therefore, all the security enhancements that have been undertaken by the Department of Public Works at my residence in Nkandla have been part of these security requirements. Any other construction undertaken by government outside the premises of my home, such as the accommodation for government security personnel, are not part of my residence. I've been advised by the Minister of Public Works that he has established a task team of experts to investigate whether supply chain procedures were properly followed by the department in carrying out the security upgrades. In addition, the Auditor General has been requested to audit all classified prestige projects. The Minister has also instructed the department to cooperate with investigations by any other authorized agency. I fully support these investigations. We will not preempt the outcome of these investigations or respond to speculation at this stage. We must respect the institutions that are investigating and the processes that have been started. Should the investigations unearth wrongdoing of any kind, the necessary actions will be taken. As we have done in respect of irregularities in other instances. Honorable Speaker, I think it would be very beneficial for your House to have a clearer understanding about my residence, so that when you discuss my residence, you are not basing it on speculations. You know exactly what has happened. And let me help this House, because even the honorable members who have been asking questions, some have been visiting my home. And there's been a lot of writing about it, TV showing of my homes. I think it is important for me to help you, Honorable Speaker, and your House to understand the facts as they are, so that even those who are going to ask the follow-up questions, ask them within the context. we as the Zuma family have built our home. And let me give you the background. Because what, for an example, has been shown in the TV that people have made a lot of hullabaloo. These are my houses built by me, by my family, not by government. My home has been there for a long time. At one point, because of violence in our province, much as I wanted to extend my home, I couldn't, because houses were being burned as a result of violence. And indeed, my own residence was burned twice. Because there was still violence, I always replaced the rondavels as they were before. Once violence was over, I took the decision to extend my home. And I built my home with more rondavels, modern ones, modern rondavels. And I fenced my home. And I engaged the bank, and I'm still paying a bond on my first phase of my home. There were many allegations even at that time. If honorable members would remember, my home is not the first time that it is paraded in the TV. Those rondavels were paraded with a lot of allegations. And yet I'm still paying a bond to this day. As a family, in our own time and right, we decided to upgrade our homestead. There are two homesteads that we have upgraded. There are two. One is not appearing on the TV because there are no security features in it. And that's where, in fact, we started upgrading our home, our resident, called Mpinda Mshai. All of us, we have a manner of working together as an extended family. We do things together. When that one was at its finishing touches, we started on where I stay. We got constructors to come and construct, which meant we were extending our home. At that point, the first one of the rondavels, what was provided to me then as a deputy president was a static security at a particular level. First, they built their own place to sleep as they take shifts. There were very limited security features in that one. When I became the president, as I was extending, we had agreed with the family, we are extending our house. Then government came to say they now have to include the security features to my residence. By the time the government came, the constructors were on site that had been enlisted by the family, not by government or public works. Government had a plan, what they wanted to do. They wanted to improve the fencing, etc. And I said to government, I've got my plan, which was a comprehensive plan, to extend my home. What then happened, because government insisted from the security point of view, they needed to participate. I then made government to meet with the constructors who were already on site. That tells you, even the manner in which the question is being asked. Well, the question is, have you instructed the minister to stop, to tell the constructors to stop constructing? As if they were brought by the Public Works. Public Works found those constructors constructing my home. They had to agree what is it that was to be done by government. And in my home, government had specific things they wanted to do to my houses, not to build houses for me. Because a wrong impression is being given in the country that government has built a home for me. It is not true. People are speaking without knowing, and therefore saying, I've spent so much money of government. I've never done so. It is unfair, and I don't want to use harsher words, because you believe that people like me can't build a home. What has government done? Because there are two different things. My homes, my houses that are built by me and my family, and the security features that government wanted to attach to satisfy their own requirements. And they're basically in my home, in the main, fencing that they did, bulletproof windows, not all the windows, specific ones, and the bunker. These are matters that government did. Don't ask me. Don't ask me.
Order, members. Order.
I think you must respect me. I've respected people on this issue. I don't want to be a football. You must listen. If your concern is genuine, listen. Because I want to help you to understand.
Order, honourable members, order. Order, honourable members,
Now,
order.
This is what has happened. Government brought in security features to my houses that are built by me, constructed by the company, by constructors that were brought in by us long before government came with this plan. That must be very clear, because the houses that are paraded in the TV as having been built by government is not true. And I'm happy because the investigations are taking place. What then the government did, given its own considerations of security, they built other houses outside of my home for the security personnel, which are not shown on the TV, which are real government houses. I don't know how much they cost. What is shown is my house that I've paid for. And there's a lie that it has been built by government. It has not been built by government. And I have an opportunity today, Honorable Speaker, to explain this. Because my name is being used wrongly. My family is being undermined. Even by the very honorable members who don't ask as to what actually happened. And I feel very aggrieved, I must tell you for the first time. You then have leaders of political parties who don't know whether they're provincial or national, taking trips to come and photograph my house and making a laughing stock of my family. I take exception to this. You must deal with the facts you know. The houses that were built by government for itself have not been shown there for the security. Now, I don't know this amount of money where it went to, because it could not be so much that went to 3 items in the main. There's houses behind which were meant by government outside of my house, which has nothing to do with my home. But all of that is being piled on me as having used 200 million. And therefore I'm very corrupt. I take exception because I want whoever is going to insist after this explanation is going to tell me and prove to me where have I used all of this money. Honorable Speaker, I respect human beings, all of them. And I cannot jump to anyone when there are rumors or allegations. We often say if allegations have not been tested and proved, they remain allegations. I've been convicted, painted black, called the first-class corrupt man on facts that are not tested. I take exception. I want you, when you ask your questions properly. Because you must not discuss issues you don't know. If you want clarity, ask for clarity. And I thought it is important for me to explain this. It is absolutely important. If you ask the Minister of Public Works, ask the Minister of Public Works on specific issues related to government, not about my home. Not about my home. I want everybody to be clear, because you have made this country to believe that government has built a home for me. It's not true. It is not true. Zuma family has built its own home for its own comfort. Does not ask anyone. Honorable Speaker, I thought I should explain this to help your House, so that if it's interested to discuss this matter, it must discuss it from correct facts, from facts that are clear. The constructor who constructed houses out there, I had nothing to do with that constructor. The constructors that are still building my house today, I had everything to do with them. Not government. Government only had anything to do with them to discuss how to include the security features only. Nothing more. And therefore, even the question that says to me, have you instructed the minister to instruct the constructor to stop constructing, is premised on ignorance, not knowing what is the situation. And I thought it's important, Honorable Speaker, to clarify this. Thank you very much.
I thank the Honorable the President. Is there a supplementary question? Honorable Mazibuko.
There is, Honorable Speaker.
Order on members, order.
Honorable Speaker, let me be very clear. The fact that the Honorable President's house is his own home, built by himself, is exactly what is at issue today. The fact that the government is spending 250 million rand to upgrade not a presidential house, but the president's own house, built by himself, his own private residence, not a state residence. This is what is at issue today. And clearly the Honorable President is determined to hide behind the same apartheid laws that his ministers are determined to hide behind. So, Honorable Speaker, I do have a follow-up question because, Honorable President, if you want to talk about security enhancements, let's talk about security enhancements. 31 new buildings, 66 of which cost 8 million rand each. Is that a security enhancement? 2.3 million rand for lifts to carry the Honourable President to his underground bunker. Is that a security enhancement? Is air conditioning systems for every one of the houses at a cost of 1.5 million rand, air conditioning, is that a security enhancement? Is a visitor centre, a gymnasium, and guest rooms, are these security enhancements? Mr. Speaker, I will be very clear. The fact that this is the Honourable President's private home is something that we take exception to. The government does not have a responsibility to upgrade at a cost of 250 million rand the private home of the Honourable President.
Speaker, over and above the rules of this House, we have a constitution in this country. And to my knowledge, there's a Bill of Rights in that constitution, which is binding on this House as well. And in that Bill of Rights, there is a right to privacy. I cannot understand why every other South African has a right to privacy except the President, the first citizen of this country. Can't the Honourable Leader of the Opposition Can't the Leader of the Opposition respect the right to privacy of the President?
Continue, Honourable Member.
Honourable Speaker, when the public have to pay 250 million rand to upgrade that privacy, it ceases to be private. Honourable President, do the gym, the guest rooms, the air conditioning, the visitors centre, the 31 new buildings, do these constitute security enhancements? Thank you very much.
The Honourable President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. Once again, the Honourable Member is premising his question on an information that is not accurate. The additional houses that I put in my home, there are 5. There are 5, only 5. And that's what I can speak about. She's giving a huge number of houses that I have nothing to do with. And she then adds the amount of money on houses that I've never paid. Nobody had paid my houses for anything. I paid for my houses. There are 5, my honourable member. 5 additional to the rondavels I talked about. Don't include things that don't belong to me. Don't push them to me. Talk about things that belong to me, that I paid for. What the security has done for security features does not include the houses you are counting. They are not in my residence. They are not in my home, those houses. Ask the question differently to the relevant people who could answer you that question. Ask me about 5 houses that we are talking about, and I'll give you the answer.
Order, all members, order. I have on my list the following speakers. Honourable Holomisa, Honourable Dreya, Honourable Ndlovu. In that order.
Hlala ngaphambili amalala ndicinga ba i-explanation oyinikileyo ube yayinikwe nguminister o-responsible kwakuqala ngolu hlobo uyibeke ngalo mhlawumbi ngeyibucaca lo mcimbi. Now since ke usithi uba le palamente iyafuna uxoxa lo mcimbi ingawuxoxa, kodwa bendawusuggesta uba yi-national key point lamzi wakho ngoku ngenxa yoba ke ungumongameli. Mna bendawucebisa uba speaker xa ngaba ke kuyavunyelwana kuthunyelwe ikomiti eyaskrinwayo apha epalamente, portfolio committee ye-intelligence enokwazi uku-assessa
Order, all members.
uyiminister into yiyo yacebisa apha kwingxaki apha.
Order, all members.
Kuthunyelwe leyo portfolio committee izoverifya zonke izinto Uba aba kuthiwa mabophanda audita nontontoni abaskrinwanga abanye babo. This is security risk exercise. Ndicela nje uba niyiconsideration ungabungqola nje wena ungazinto apha.
The Honor of the President.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker. If I heard Honorable Member is making a proposal, there is investigation already taking place. I would imagine the Honorable Member is perhaps correctly saying, let us have all the facts and we can discuss intelligently. Because at the moment we are going to be asking questions based on false information. And I think if this House would want to discuss anything from that angle, it's not going to help. And I think that proposal, which is being made, is a proposal for this House to consider. Insofar as I'm concerned, the Minister has said is sending an investigating team, and I'm hoping there will be facts gathered, or the Auditor General, the Public Protector has said is doing preliminary investigation or whatever. I think the member is saying you need screened people because of the fact that it is a security point. I think it's a very sensible point he's making. Because in no country, these kind of matters are discussed in public. And I think he's sobering this House. And I'm sympathetic to his proposal. Thank you.
I thank the Honourable President. Order, Honourable Members. Honourable Dreyer.
Mr. Speaker, if the President is disputing the figures given by the Leader of the Opposition and the previous Speaker, will he commit to giving us the correct figures spent by the Department of Public Works, as well as a breakdown of the items on which this money has been spent?
The Honourable the President.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. If the Honourable Member thinks that I must know the book counting of a department and count figures, I think it's demanding too much. I don't know the figures. That's not my job to do so. The proposal which is being made by the Honourable Member, that you need people properly screened to get the facts, so that your Honourable Leader does not ask a question and give figures to me that don't belong to me. Thank you, Honourable Speaker.
The Honourable Ndlovu. Kachen.
Ngiyabonga Somlongo. Ngiyabonga Mhlonishwa Mongameli. Lokukhuluma ngaze kube kuningi kangaka nje Mhlonishwa, udalwa uminister wakho lo wa Public Works. Ngoba ukuba uminister wakho wa Public Works wachaza njengokuchaza nje ngakukho konke lokukhuluma. Manje ke indaba la yonakala khona yonakala ngoba akakwazi ukuhlukanisa izinto phakathi. Ngakho ke lokho kuphakanyiswa umhlonishwa wolomisa noma wawemukela Mongameli. Kodwa umhlonishwa uNxesi must come to this house and tell us ukuthi wethini kanti ngomuzi wakho.
The Honourable the President.
Honourable Speaker, well, the Honourable Member is making a suggestion to this House, and I think it is this House that has the right to respond to that, because I can't determine what this House must do. But I think that's an issue the Honourable Member is making, and I don't know whether the Minister was asked the right question from the beginning. I don't know, because he must have answered on the basis of what questions were presented to him. I'm not sure he was asked to describe the details of how my residence was built, not just now. He was dealing with a specific issue, as I understood, which was asked to him, and he responded to those issues. But if there's a proposal, I don't think one would have a problem with that. But, Honorable Speaker, I usually read the Hansard, even from the olden days. I just wanted to share with the House before I sit down some Hansard that happened some time ago. Maybe the House would be interested. The Honorable, this Parliament, this was a Parliament olden days when people were here, just to share with the House for whatever it is worth. And I'm therefore saying, honorable members, let me share with you an interesting quotation that I found in Hansard, a record of a parliamentary question session in this House, which took place on the 28th August 1981. Honorable Member, Mr. R.R. Halley, MP, asked the Honorable Prime Minister P.W. Botha as follows, and I quote, whether the organization known as the Congress of the People, COPE, has been provided with financial assistance by the state. If so, A, by which department? B, what was the total amount involved? And C, for what purpose was such assistance provided? Unquote. And is COPE with COPE. Prime Minister P.W. Botha responded as follows, and I quote, and I'm sure the finger was up there. No, the honorable member must learn not to allow himself to be misused, to spread unfounded stories, unquote. If Honorable Speaker were to ask a question, was COPE in existence then, or we have seen the reincarnation of the COPE, or it was deep, it only surfaced at a given time? It's an interesting question. Thank you very much, Honorable Speaker.
Order, Speaker. Point of order, Speaker. Speaker.
Order on all members, order.
Can I rise on a point of order, Speaker? Speaker, can I rise on a point of order?
That concludes questions to the President.
Speaker, can I rise on a point of order?
What's your point of order?
Can I rise on a point of order, Speaker?
You are out of order.
I'm asking to rise on a point of order.
No, you are out of order. Take your seat.
I just wanted to know whether the President is equating himself to P.W. Botha.
Order on members, order on members, order. That concludes questions to the President. I thank the President. Honourable members, we have also, the office has received a document from the Defence Department of a withdrawal to the response they made. This will be published, this will be made public. I now wish to announce that that concludes the business of the day, and the House is adjourned.